control, risk reduction, greater transparency, reducing nuclear and conventional threats to European security. You haven't mentioned the word Ukraine in that context. Mm-hmm. Is Ukraine on the agenda on Monday for U.S. and Russia talks? And then I'll have a follow on Kazakhstan.
Well, first, Ukraine is front and center on the agenda because that's what has precipitated this crisis, Russia's threats against Ukraine, the prospect of renewed aggression by Russia against Ukraine. So that has to be front and center. But there are different places for talking about different issues. We have this, the strategic stability dialogue, which, as I mentioned, is something that came after the extension of New START as a place to see if we could make further progress on arms control and further reductions. The NATO-Russia Council will be meeting a couple of days later. And that, by the way, will be preceded by a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council. And then we'll have the OSCE. But in each of these areas, to the extent that there is progress to be made, and we hope that there is, actual progress is going to be very difficult to make, if not impossible, in an environment of escalation by Russia. So we will see what results, what path Russia chooses. But if it genuinely wants to make progress on issues that it says are of concern to Russia, as well as on issues that are of concern to us, that progress has to be in the context of de-escalation, and that goes directly to Ukraine.
But that sounds like when Ukraine comes up on Monday, because of course it will, when Russia pushes its agenda on Ukraine, you're going to try and focus instead on bilateral issues and not focus on Ukraine on Monday, and wait till later in the week to focus on Ukraine? Is that
well,
right?
we will make the point in every single one of these fora that the aggression against Ukraine will be met with, as I've said, and others have said, massive consequences. That if we're going to make progress on any of these issues, it has to be in an environment in the context of de-escalation, not escalation, and that goes directly to Ukraine. And I would add something we've also talked to Russia about, including President Biden talking to President Putin about this. The way to resolve the differences in eastern Ukraine, in the Donbass, is through the Minsk agreements. And we remain fully prepared to try to facilitate their implementation. Indeed, the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe, Karen Donfried, has met with both the Ukrainian and Russian negotiators, as well as with the French and the Germans, who are leading this so-called Normandy format that brings France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia together toward implementation of the Accords. And we remain fully prepared to try and facilitate that. But Russia has to be willing to engage and to make good on its commitments. I mentioned a few moments ago. There's a long list of things that each side has to do under Minsk. And by and large, Ukraine has done or is engaged in doing most of what it was required to do. There are some things that are outstanding, that are important. Go down the list. Russia has done virtually none of it. And in fact, not only is it not doing what it's required to do, it is actively doing the opposite in many areas. So again, this is a test for Russia. If it is serious about resolving the situation in eastern Ukraine and to resolve it diplomatically and peacefully, Minsk is the way to do it. We will fully support efforts to implement the Minsk agreements by both parties. And again, we'll see if Russia is willing to do that.
Simon.